Good day for yeah. Try this again in English. Good day, dear friend, and welcome to this our Monday night version of this thing of ours. Welcome aboard to one and all. Before we begin the benediction, let me remind you, of course, always to make sure that you are subscribed to the channel for some reason or another. I don't know. I get these people say, "Hey, I'm unsubscribed." I don't know why. I don't want to think too deeply into that. Let me also remind you, as part of the benediction, that we have 141 days until the election. 141 days. Pay particular note. Now, in the event you're brand new here, if you are, welcome to this thing of ours. Welcome to this, the family, and welcome to me. I'll be your host. I'll help you through this. And what I do is, I am not a cheerleader. I'm not here to sit there and say, Trump's great. You don't need me to say that. What I'm into is analysis, legal media analysis, critical thinking, not what I want. What I want makes no difference. Advocacy is one thing. I'm talking about who is going to win, what the brutal reality of the election is about. That's all. It's all I care about. I don't, it's not about what I want. That's Fox News. They tell you about what they want. They don't tell you bad things. I want to tell you the truth. I want to be that doctor that tells you how you're doing, not what you really want to hear. I want to hear you to hear the cold, brutal reality. Okay? Okay. All right, dear friends. So before we begin, let me remind you, of course, as I said, please, 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 please make sure you subscribe. That subscription and also liking the video is so critical. You know how everybody does that. Please like the video, like the video. Liking is that algorithm that puts us into the mainstream. So anyway, thank you for that. And before we begin, here's a critical word from our critical sponsor. Do you remember a while back the world's most famous celebrities and billionaires were outraged because the internet used apps to stalk their flight routes of their private jets? Remember that? And with these apps, anyone could track the celebrities' flight routes nearly in real time. But new legislation by Congress, of course, has made that illegal, allowing the rich and famous to anonymize their jet flight and make it impossible to track them. Well, unfortunately, when regular citizens like you and me complain about our privacy, the government does nothing about it. That's why I protect my personal data with today's sponsor, Virtual Shield, and I absolutely love the security I get with them. Virtual Shield helps protect my private information, browsing history, and internet activity from cyber criminals, hackers, tech corporations, ISPs, and more. It only takes 2 clicks on my laptop or phone to protect me with their flagship tools like Virtual Shield's VPN, which features anonymous browsing, ad blocking, a strict no-log policy, military-grade encryption, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited devices, and much, much more. Thanks again to Virtual Shield for sponsoring Lionel Nation, and be sure to sign up by visiting virtualshield.com/Lionel, or simply click the link in the description below, because every sign up with that link gets you up to 67% off and a 60-day risk-free trial. All right, dear friends, especially you newbies and the like, let me give you what's going on here. As I said, we have until the election exactly 141 days. Now, listen carefully. If you've listened to me, how long have I been telling you about Gavin Newsom? Here's our good buddy, the Tahuya Bar and Grill. I have not heard from you. Great friend. Still subscribed to with you every day. You have been a stalwart, my dear friend. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. We've been around for a while. We have a good bunch of folks. All right. So first and foremost, as I said, I've been telling you for a couple of years, virtually almost immediately, that Gavin Newsom was going to be the switcheroo, and everybody said, "But I don't like Gavin Newsom." Now, my friends, if you've just tuned in, whenever you tell somebody a political prognostication, when you wax Vatic, when you explain something as far as what is going to happen, they will respond to you with what they like. They will say to you, for example, if you say, today on social media, well, I don't like social media. Okay, fine. Well, I don't watch CNN. Okay, that's fine. And it's not that they're bad people, but people miss the point, and they think that somehow their particular likes or dislikes mean something. And I don't know why. I don't know why. Not really sure, but that's kind of what these folks do. I don't understand why, but that's another story. Okay, hang on a minute. Turn that off there. Okay, now the next thing is, when you try to figure this thing out, you may ask yourself a question, which is very, very important. You might ask yourself, why is it that they do this? This doesn't make any sense to me. Well, get used to it, my friend. That's one thing that will always confound you. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Now, this is a reality. This is a fact. Joe Biden is not going to be there for the election. Now, already today, you've got to understand, well, where do I go and how do I know this and why would I think this and why do you say this? Well, I know this and say this because it's true, what we've been saying for quite a long time. It's one of those things that, frankly, is absolutely the truth. And we knew something was wrong with Joe during the corn pop days. And again, I don't know why they picked Joe Biden out of all the people that could have been available, all the people that the deep state would have loved. You're going to steal the election. Why not steal it with Gavin Newsom or somebody else, an up and comer? They knew Joe was an idiot and a fool. In fact, Barack Obama said this for years. So, question number one, why him? I don't know. We can guess all day long. Next rule, don't read into this. My friends, we have many, many of you great and loyal and wonderful people who love to, dare I say, wax conspiratorial. When you hear hoof beats, you think zebra. It's your nature. It's who you are. It's the way you act. It's fine, but unfortunately, it has nothing to do with reality. Okay, for reasons I don't really understand. Is it a part of a deep state shadow government globalist cabal to destroy the? Could be. I wouldn't be surprised if it is, but we don't even need to go there. Could be, but some people love this. They love to talk about the globalistness. I don't know. Nobody knows. We don't know. We don't know this. Okay, next. You've got to listen to the White House and the Democrats, and they are the greatest liars ever. They will look right at you and just lie. They'll tell you that there was Russian interference and collusion with the 2016 election, but not with the 2020 election, and that Joe Biden won fair and square with a record number of votes that nobody can even remotely justify. And they'll look at you right straight in the face and they'll say, I don't know what you're talking about. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. Russia did this. How? They just did. How did Russia hack? They just did. Remember this, dear friend. In the entire history of the alleged Russian hacking, they never once told you how Russia hacked anything. They never did. The closest they came was maybe saying they might have purchased some Facebook. I don't know. They've never told you. Okay? That's it. Now, let me give you the line. Whenever something is presented to you, they bring up Karine Jean-Pierre, who, by the way, has been the stalwart of not only lying, but preposterous theories advancing certain aspects of things. Okay, she is without a doubt the best, simply incredible. Honest to God. Simply the best. Let me give you an example of her response and how she blames either. I don't know. I'll let you judge. Here she is when asked specifically, what about the president freezing up? What do you think?
There seems to be a sort of rash of videos that have been edited to make the president appear especially frail or...
Now, remember, look at this picture. Do you think this picture, is fake? Her hair's fake. The wig is fake. But do you think what you are seeing now is fake? That this didn't happen? That this is somehow some other version? You'll never see them say, no. Here's Biden doing jumping jacks and cartwheels, and this is an AI. They actually blame AI for this. Okay, now watch this master or mistress, I guess, of prevarication.
Mentally confused. I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're more involved.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are
cheap fakes. Listen to what she's saying. See Georgia Maloney here? Look at these are fakes.
Cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation. And so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period. And to their credit, we have a conservative Washington Examiner did call them out as well, calling out the New York Post. Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attacked the president for thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins, what he's been able to do for the American people across the country, we're seeing these deep fakes. These manipulated videos. And it is, again, done in bad faith.
Is that beautiful or what? What deep fake? Now, if you've just tuned in and you're saying, wow, this is how good they are. You must understand this. Whatever you believe is true, you're told for the longest time, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. When people thought years ago and suspected that some aspects of the COVID vaccine, either because of mRNA or whatever, might affect adversely pregnant women or people with heart predispositions or comorbidities, cardiac problems and the like. When that was brought up, when people suggested this, you were told you're a conspiracy theorist, trust the science, and you're out of your mind. This is what you were told, okay? This is what you were told. This is a current action by an attorney general. Forgive me. Let's watch this, and I will get that information for you.
Safe for pregnant women. However,
Kansas
in February
Attorney
of
General.
2021, Pfizer possessed reports for 458 pregnant women who received Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine during pregnancy. More than half of the pregnant women reported an adverse event, and more than 10% reported a miscarriage, many within days of the vaccination.
Interesting.
Pfizer also possessed information from its own October 2020 study on pregnancy in rats.
Trust the science.
Indicating that its COVID-19 vaccine was likely linked to infertility, loss of litters, and stillborn offspring.
Trust it.
Number two, safety relating to heart conditions like myocarditis. Pfizer consistently denied any evidence of a connection or safety signal between its COVID-19 vaccine and myocarditis or pericarditis. Indeed, on January 18th, 2023, When asked whether its vaccine caused strokes or myocarditis, Pfizer chairman and CEO Alan Berla stated, quote, "We've not seen a single signal, although we have distributed billions of doses," end quote. A signal that he was referring to as a safety signal, which refers to a negative consequence. However, as Pfizer knew, the United States government, the United States military, foreign governments, and others had found that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine caused myocarditis and pericarditis.
You got some?
Number 3, effectiveness regarding variants.
So by the way, this is Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach.
Pfizer also claimed that its COVID-19 vaccine protected against COVID-19 variants, even though data available at the time showed Pfizer's vaccine was effective less than half the time.
Trust the science.
Finally, transmission. Pfizer urged Americans to get vaccinated in order to protect their loved ones, clearly indicating a claim that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccination stopped transmission of COVID-19.
There you go. What?
Pfizer later admitted that it had never even studied transmission of it after its recipients
By the way, his reading is just pathetic, but I think you're getting the point.
received the vaccine and whether they could say it stopped transmission. After making these misleading statements, Pfizer also engaged in some censorship attempts. Emails reveal that Pfizer officials coordinated with social media platforms to censor any speech critical of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine safety and effectiveness.
Well, you get the point. I mean, he really needs to work on his reading, by the way you read. Now, this is information which somehow is being stated today. And there have been claims by a lot of folks that allegations of harm or inefficacy or whatever have been either quashed or looked the other way, whatever. That is a very, very important. If you are listening right now for the first time, and if you're a kind of a news tyro, here is the issue. Here is the issue which has to be asked. First, when you're dealing with that, you're going to ask the question, number one, what does the statutory immunity from liability, how is that affected? Because as you know, by law, there is immunity against corporations, big pharma, pharmaceutical industries who produce these particular vaccines and variants by statute. So you're wondering, how does this jibe with that? Number one. Number two, the defense I predict will be something to the effect of, we did not have a lot of time to be as circumspect as we wish we could have been. We had to react within the confines of the amount of time that we had, and that's what happened. The real issue, and this is the most important, is the Supreme Court must eventually rule on the issue of whether you have any right to refuse, under the Constitution, the right to refuse a medical treatment, immunology, vaccine, immunization, whatever. The Jacobson against Massachusetts case, I believe, is from 1905. 1905. And this is something which is the most important. And at the time, if I recall correctly, there was 1905, it dealt with an individual, I believe he was from Sweden, I believe, who came to this country. And he was fined for not getting the smallpox vaccination. And he already had received it, but he had such an adverse reaction, he didn't want to take it again. And the Supreme Court in 1905, they basically upheld, under the police power theory, the state's right to charge him, to fine him $5 or whatever it was for not doing it. But they did not get to the real issue. Because what happens if one day, as was attempted in Texas under Rick Perry, what if there's a move to mandate Gardasil? some HPV vaccine for your child. We don't know. That's the issue. That is the issue. That is what we need to address. Okay? Okay. So before you jump in and do the usual stuff about the vaccine, the issue is very interesting. It's far more interesting. And why now? And these states are going to, you watch what happens. There will be a move, much like tobacco litigation and the like, for attorneys general around the country to bring these particular actions. So stay tuned for that. Ladies and gentlemen, John McGuire couldn't get higher, says, based on some of my reading regarding liability, 2 more solid avenues: employment discrimination and mislabeling fines. Excellent. There also is a thing called the vaccine court, John, as you know, and how that plays into it. That remains to be seen. Now, here's something which is important. You know, this may not affect you. It deals with the New Jersey. I'm not a resident of the state of New Jersey. Mrs. L is a proud daughter of the state of New Jersey. She is a New Jerseyite, a native of the Garden State. And there is a fellow who has announced for governor. And he has a very, very wonderful, wonderful platform. And he hosts a morning radio show with incredible numbers. Incredible. It's an FM morning talk show, news. It's morning drive. And it might be the last of the Mohicans of truly being monumentally important and critical. His name is Bill Spadea. And we met him. Mrs. L knows him. They've been on shows, and we saw him in, where was it? Weehawken or someplace, at a little community place. I was very, very impressed with him. And this is his announcement, because Mr. Spadea announced he was running, and I want you to hear his ad, and I want you to remember this name, and I want you to pray that Bill Spadea gets rid of this Murphy fellow who is destroying one of the most beautiful states in the nation. Let me try this again.
Hey guys, I'm Bill Spadea. I'll be with you at 10 o'clock this morning, talking Jersey, taking your calls. As always, I want to hear from you. Question today is, are you digging in with me? Let's get started with John from Sayreville. John, what's on your mind?
Hey Bill, I gotta be honest. I've given up on this damn state.
I know, John. The Trenton politicians have literally wrecked everything.
I can't afford to live here anymore. The politicians have rigged the state against anyone who works hard and does the right thing. I know you've probably heard this before, but you're the only one who can help us.
Yes.
You know, I've hosted my popular conservative talk show for the past 9 years. And when New Jerseyans call in to talk, I'm listening. And this is what I'm hearing. Taxes, spending, borrowing, inflation, all out of control. Serious concern about the radical liberal nonsense our kids are taught in school. And while we struggle, Trenton politicians have opened the floodgates for illegals getting free handouts on your dime. But here's a newsflash.
Right.
Republicans are never going to take back our state if we nominate a 35-year career politician who's already lost twice for governor. Politicians, they talk at you. Me, I listen.
Yep.
I've heard you loud and clear. So I'm in. I'm running for governor to fight for you. I'm ready, willing, and able to lead with strength, conviction, and courage to restore common sense to our great state. I'll make the tough budget cuts that scare the career politicians. We'll fix the way we fund schools so suburban parents pay less property taxes. Give kids an education at school, not an indoctrination.
Yes.
We'll stop Joe Biden from using our state as a dumping ground for his illegals.
Yes.
And end the handouts they get from Phil Murphy and weak sellout Republicans. The insider establishment power brokers, no, they don't like me. Why? Because I'm an outsider they can't control. And because I'm unapologetically conservative, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and pro-Trump. If you're okay with more of the same, the other Republicans running for governor will give you exactly that. I'm running for the people who are sick and tired of expecting little from the politicians we elect and getting even less. On the radio, I give power to those who deserve to have their voices heard, and that's exactly what I'll do as your governor. Now let's get to work.
Remember that name. Remember that name. Now, I'm not going to endorse him because that might be a kiss of death. Where did we see him, honey? Where was that place we went to? We were in Edgewater. Went to this little community center, a little place. He was great. He's been working. He's been working in the morning, doing morning drive. This guy I like. And by the way, if he wins, everybody wins. It's a kind of the new movement that we're seeing right now. How about this George Keane, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Al, if one can believe the poll is where Trump is winning, what do you think about the down ballot votes? Do you think all that pull the lever for DJT will vote Republican? That will hopefully support him? Usually, maybe, yeah. I mean, let's face it. If for anybody who votes for Trump, let me just say something. Normally, is in it to win it, right? Right? What was it? Teamwork makes dream work, or dream work makes the teamwork, whatever the hell it is. There's an expression. But so I think that's true. So if you're going to be voting for, why would somebody say, I'm a liberal Democrat? I'm going to vote for Democrat, except for Trump. So all the down ballot stuff, nah, I don't think so. Remember, whenever you go to a ballot, any kind of constitutional amendment, any referendum, no. Got it? No. All of them. No. That's what legislators are for, not for you. It's where they slip stuff in. No. Always no. No. Now, it's a great question. Let's talk about something else. And this will scare the hell out of people. Remember what I told you. How long have I been telling you about Gavin Newsom? That's coming up. I'm telling you. Today they inch. By the way, if you just tuned in, they do it like this. Excuse me. Pardon me. That's for freedom. That's for freedom. What they do is they hint. For example, there's a meeting of the Democrats, Schumer, Pelosi, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and they're going to wait until, this is what the Daily Mail said today, and they're going to wait until after the first debate. And then they're going to decide, stop it. They've already made their mind up. And now they're saying they're looking as to why Joe Biden is freezing. You see how they're pretending like, we're not really sure. We're not really sure exactly what. We're not really sure what this is about. We're not really sure. Why is he doing this? We're not really sure. We know exactly why. Let me give you a little story here. In law, you are never allowed to give an opinion as a witness unless you're an expert. That's the only reason why you have an expert is an opinion. Why? Because the expert was never there. The expert always evaluates something that was given to him. And in my opinion, the defendant is dead. In my opinion, this is fentanyl. In my opinion, he was right. In my opinion. All expert witnesses only give opinions because they were there and they're an expert. You could have an expert, a witness on the scene who happens to be watching. That could be, but in any event, there are some exceptions, however. Opinions such as, it smelled like onions. I walked in, it smelled like, I said, something's burning, and we want to get out. Oh, is that an opinion? Or are you an expert? We all know what that is. Collective facts of life, I smelled gasoline. Smelled like rain. I heard thunder. Oh, you know what thunder is? Yes, I know what. So there's certain opinions. Drunkenness is a tough one. We used to get drunk opinion. The best witness ever had a DUI ever was a bartender. And there was no DUI, no road size, no breath, no road size, no nothing. He didn't blow, he didn't nothing. And it was a good DUI too. I mean, it was serious. So who do we have? The bartender and the tab. And there's a certain amount of like confidentiality, I think the bartenders normally, that I think they owe, kind of professional courtesy. But anyway, we kind of overlooked that one. So it went like this. Mr. So-and-so, how long have you been a bartender? 35 years. And in your capacity, in your tenure as a bartender, have you ever had the opportunity to observe somebody under the influence of alcohol? Oh, yes. How many times? And he figured it out. You figure 35 times. It came at like 10,500 times. And based upon your experience and your observation of the defendant that night, did you form an opinion as to whether his normal faculties were impaired? Yes, I did. What was it opinion? His normal faculties were impaired. It's the best. It's the best. How much? Whew. And that was it. A bartender said, wow, he's around drunk people all day, every day. Sun up, sun down. He sees them at lunch. He sees them at night. He sees them all day. He knows drunk people. Well, the same thing goes for people like Joe Biden, who walk strange, you know. You ever see a woman who you say, wow, she's pregnant. Oh, are you an obstetrician? No, I don't know. No, I know what pregnant is. If you went to the doctor and said, Dr. Stengel, yes, something's wrong with dad. What do you mean? Well, he goes stiff. Ooh. And we were at an event and people were clapping and he goes stiff and he walks off. He can't pronounce words. The light bothers him. He always puts on his sunglasses. He eats a lot of, by the way, did you know that ice cream and chocolate chip ice cream, believe it or not, are part and parcel of dementia or signs of dementia? That people who have that more than usual like this. I don't know why, because a lot of us like ice cream, but that has been suggested in the past. George Keene says, as a voter, I'm amazed how many bond issuances get voted up like it's free money. Also, Kate's weekend appearance. Thoughts? Is it her? Looks like her. I think it is her. Yes, it is. I think it is her. And by the by, folks, by the by, as my great friend Bert Sugar would say, by the by, there is a wonderful series. I'm actually think I'm going to buy this. Maureen Callahan is writing this book about the Kennedys, and it is, whoa. I mean, that all of the miscarriages probably were the fact of all the VD and all that clap that Jack Kennedy had. There was another story that was rumored. I'm not going to mention which president, but it was suggested that he himself was also the victim of a lot of this. Not a victim, but he caught the clap a lot, and he was shooting blanks, and that his daughter is actually someone. And it's just rumors. What do I know? What do I know? But when you see the people that she supposedly is the daughter of, you say, wow. Mendelian genetics are funny like that. You know, like, you look like your dad. You look like your mother. Have you noticed that when you get older, how you look like your father and your mother? Have you noticed that? It's like, whoa. I knew it was good when I haven't seen somebody in a long time and they saw me and looked like my father and they started crying. Well, they normally cried anyway, but it's funny. There's something about genetics. You really look like people. There's a reason for that gene thing. Now stand by for a second, because I'm going to play for you something that will scare the living bejesus out of the Bidens and the rest. But please, before we do this, let me ask you to listen to this incredibly important word from our great sponsor, the one, the only. Are you buying your MyPillow.com stuff? Are you buying MyPillows? Are you buying the slippers, the slides? Are you doing this? Are you doing that using promo code Lionel? If you aren't, it's the greatest thing in the world. I've got my bolsters. These are my like fine tuning pillows at night. The fine tune, because you ever get like this is, you can't roll, you can't fold it over. It's just not right. Even if you go to you get a hotel pillows, are really nice, but it's just not right. I need to kind of fine tune it. That's what I've got. The little bolster. I love these things. They look like little cushions you use when you dock a boat. Those little buffers on the dock, whatever the hell they're called. I don't know what I'm talking about. I have no idea. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do know this. I do know quality. And I know the great folks at MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. It's time yet again, my friends, to hail and salute our great friends at MyPillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you'll get a free gift. No purchase necessary. And yes, I know a free gift. It's a tautology, so sue me. But first, listen carefully. Check out their $25 extravaganzas. Premium MyPillows, Queen and King, MyPillow 2.0. MyPillow bed sheets, the lowest price ever. Sandals, slides, slippers, 6-piece towel sets, 4-pack dish towel sets. Simply and absolutely unbelievable. So go to mypillow.com/Lionel, mypillow.com promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965 and watch how fast Mike Lindell answers the phone. mypillow.com, simply and absolutely the best. Now, my friend, as I told you a while back, one day you're going to wake up and Joe Biden's just not going to be the nominee. How they do it? I don't know. And I'll just do it. And I told you for, I don't know, a year, a couple, who knows? I've been telling you for a long time. And if you've been watching me, you know I've been saying this because I've heard stuff from my sources for a long, long time. And I've been telling you that he is going to be, that they're going to switch him with Gavin Newsom. Before we begin, look at this. George King says 317 likes is pitiful. Hit the like button for Mr. L. Absolutely. I don't know what to tell George, I thank you for that. I hate these people always begging for likes. It's like, but I mean, I got to mention it, but my God, I don't understand. What can I say? Here we go, folks. Get ready. Buckle up for this one. Sparky says, I got pericarditis from the Moderna shot. Most doctors I mention it to quickly change the subject or think of a reason to leave the room as if I'm shouting blasphemy. I am getting better. Excellent. That is important. I've got one friend who runs a car wash. He got it and boom, got a heart attack. I don't know if that's causation's a difficult thing, my friend. I don't know about causation. Remember, the majority of people are fine and all that kind of jazz, but I'm telling you, why is this coming out now? And what's going to be done? And watch him try to blame Trump. What are you going to do? You're going to blame Trump for this? He did that, what was it, Fast and Furious or Hell Bent for Fury? What was this thing called? The Warp Speed. Hell Bent for Fury? Where the hell did I get that from? George King says, I look like my father to the point of being named after him. His classic joke was, when people said we looked alike, it was a great adoption agency. Ooh, very good. I like that. Gwig says, what are they going to do with Harris if Newsom runs? Steve Forbes is thinking he will be a governor from Pennsylvania or Maryland instead of Newsom. No, it's going to be Gavin Newsom, and it's going to be Gretchen Whitmer, as I've been saying. They're going to get rid of her. She's toast. They hate her. I'm sorry. They hate her. She might be a nice person in real life. I don't know. She wants to get out of there anyway. She wants to be like maybe a university professor, which is even funnier, an ambassador. She doesn't care. She just wants to make her money. She's a multimillionaire. Along with her husband, whatever his name is, the first dude, and that stepdaughter of hers. But they call her Mamala. I'm still sick when I think of Drew Barrymore. Sparky says, those cushions on boat docks are called boat fenders. Oh, yeah, or fenders. Thank you so much. Or Freddie Fender, wasted days and wasted nights, which I think you probably know about. All I know is they're going to say, hey, you did this warp speed, Trump. Trump says, I didn't know any better. The whole world was screaming and yelling. See, everybody's an expert after the fact. Let me tell you something about this. Now, I want you to remember something, and you may not want to admit this, but I will. We didn't know anything about what was going to happen. We didn't know anything. Do you understand that? We knew nothing. We were asking ourselves, are people going to be dropping dead in the streets? Remember that? Are we going to be dropping dead? We had no idea. Remember this? This was coming from China. Yeah. We were driving around like, can we drive? We didn't know anything. Remember this? So don't forget that. People say, oh, I knew. You didn't know anything. Don't give me this business about you knew. You didn't know anything then. Nobody knew. People were freaked out. Absolutely nuts. People were just crazed by what was going on. And the reason why I thought, which was the most important thing, is that I said, well, let's see what happens. We didn't even know what shelter in place meant. Remember when people were learning about how to wash hands? There was this guy one time who said, well, I'm a surgeon, Here's how you wash hands. You got like 8 million views. There was a friend of ours who left all their mail in the garage. He didn't even have a garage. This is the most important thing in the world. This is the most amazing thing ever. Let me see here. Just a second. Now, a couple of things here. There was also a gold key. Do you remember a gold key? Remember that one? There was a gold key, and you could buy it at a store, and that it looked like a divot cleaner for like golf players, what golfers would wear. And you had this to touch things like ATMs or elevator buttons or whatever it was. It was the strangest. And people bought this thing. It could be anything. It could be a pencil. It could be a whatever it is. People went nuts. People went crazy. People went. So don't give me this stuff about, oh, I knew all about it. You didn't know anything at the time. Nobody knew anything. And I happen to know also a great friend of mine, a doctor friend, and he's one of us. Believe me, he's one of us. And he says when he was at a certain hospital in the area, there was a code they used whenever somebody kicked because of this, and or just died, and he kept hearing it. It was a code. It wasn't like code blue, another one bites the dust, and another one. No, nothing like that. Just something like a tone, or he kept hearing. He couldn't believe how many people died. Now, granted, with comorbidities or old or whatever it was. So don't give me this business about, oh, we knew. We didn't know anything. George Keane says, I got Gavin Newsom, but where did Gretchen as a vice president come from? Not saying it doesn't make sense for that side, but can you share where that comes from? That's been the inside skinny since the beginning. A woman, and remember, you want somebody, it's going to be less important for Newsom than anybody else, but you want somebody who understands the theme, who understands the modality, who understands what the shadow government wants. She is it. Tough, mean, a woman, great. And don't give me this black woman stuff. Got to be a black woman. That is nonsense. Absolute, utter nonsense. Look at this vote. Here's my vote. Neither one I used to have years ago, which I don't anymore. I also got one that's, I've got a Nixon button too, which is very interesting. There we go. Now, next. Tony Stark says, if the welfare offices continue to register the illegal immigrants, Obama will surpass Roosevelt for the longest term as POTUS. Well, let me explain, and this is important. Let's see if indeed this is too big to rig. But Tony, here's what I want you to listen to. And this is the ultimate. Thank you, Bob S. Beautiful man, Bob. Love the picture. Love it. By the way, hang on. Ignat Semmelweis. Remember him? Ignat Semmelweis did the hand washing. He was I think it was OBGYN, and there was this disease that women had for childbirth. Call me wacky, but I think if we wash our hands, they go, get out of here. People, remember, they were smoking. They would lean over the idea of washing their hands made no sense. Sparky says, I knew they gave a cold a name and stopped the world. I got the vax so I could truthfully tell older relatives I got it so they wouldn't freak out. Arrogant me figured I was too robust to be harmed. Sparky, excuse me, everybody and anybody at the time, my closest, dearest friends were absolutely freaked out. Doctors were telling people in hospitals what they were seeing. Now, was there an of course. Was it produced by Wuhan contamination? Of course. Did people over-exaggerate? Of course. Yes. Multiple plates spinning simultaneously. Remember this, and I want you to remember this for the rest of your life. The sign of great intelligence, a superior intellect, is somebody who's able to handle two or more inconsistent thoughts simultaneously. Yes, it's important. Yes, it was. Do you remember during AIDS? You probably know. Do you remember AIDS? Yes. Okay. When AIDS first came out, people were saying, holy wow, bad news. AIDS was horrible. It was like polio. It freaked people out like you couldn't believe. Going bareback was a death sentence. People went nuts. And for good reason, okay? Good. Remember that? Yes. There's a good reason for that too. Good reason. People were frightened beyond anything. Okay. But then somebody said, wait a minute. How is AIDS contracted? There's an analogy here. Stick with me. They said, well, it's got to be in a blood-borne product. IV drug use. Okay, that's obvious. Birth. That's pretty bloody. Okay. Breastfeeding, maybe. They found a little bit of it in tears, but one of the biggest blood products was semen. And it had to find its way, without going into the mechanics of it, the how do I say this? The frequency of heterosexual woman to heterosexual man was nothing. So an HIV positive, seropositive woman contracting or giving it to a man doing conventional whatever, remember, woman to man, de minimis. Well, that didn't work. And there was a militant group at the time, not militant, but there's a group of people who said, wait a minute, the only way we're going to get more funding is if everybody thinks that everybody can catch it. So they don't want anybody to think that it's only either a gay disease or IV drug users. They want everybody to think that they are equally as susceptible. Well, that's simply not true. So at the time, you had to say to yourself, wait a minute, is this true? Yes. Is this true? Yes. Is this a deadly, horrible disease? Yes. Is it serious? Yes. Is everybody susceptible? No. And that's the part that freaked people out. George Keene, ladies and gentlemen, said, Supreme Court, outside of cutting funding and impeachment, how can Congress regulate? Didn't the Supreme Court with Marbury invent their current main function? I respectfully submit that the Supreme Court has virtually no effect whatsoever. Excuse me, the Congress does on the Supreme Court. No, absolutely. I mean, they could play around later with, what's interesting? If we have more justices, how do we fix it? Because the number of justices are not prescribed in the Constitution. Sparky says, remember, Lionel, I was right about vegetable oils, where the stars were on the Apollo moon pictures and the autism grift. Fauci is science, but I know science. Remember when vegetable oils, people went crazy, and then seed oils. One of the worst oils to use historically has been corn oil. Dr. Greger does a wonderful, wonderful thing. There's a couple of absolute, how do I say this? A couple of wonderful pieces. Wonderful. One thing that he does. Everybody, especially plant-based folks, every day I make sure I have vitamin D3. Everybody should take vitamin D. By the way, it's not a vitamin, it's a hormone. Check with your doctors. Get your vitamin D levels checked. That's number one. Number two, I like, believe it or not, a vegan or a non. It's kind of like an omega, kind of a non-krill, non-fish type of supplement. Very good. It's harmless, but it's a nice little boost for mental clarity and the like. I take a B12 once a week, just once a week, because plant-based folks don't have it. And that's it. That is it. Period. The rest of it, food-based. That's all. All right, friends. Let me see. What else are we here for? Now, let me go back to this. This is what we need to talk about. As you know, there are three groups of people which are very, very critical. Very, very critical for everybody to understand that the president is going to do exceedingly well with, and I implore him to reach out and try to to grasp, if you will, in terms of support and the like. The first one is African Americans, and the other one, of course, African Americans and gays and Latinos. And one of the things which is scaring these people to no end is the following. More and more people find it okay, more and more black folks find it okay and cool to say that they are going to vote for President Trump. And this scares the Dems like you can't believe. Let's look at this fine gentleman.
Agree with everything about President Trump. I don't agree with 100% everything that anybody does. However, I'm not voting based off.
This is I Swear Vezzo, or as we say in Italian, I Swear Vezzo. He is a Detroit rapper, ladies and gentlemen, and dig the threads. That's all I want to say. Dig the threads.
I don't agree with everything about President Trump. I don't agree with 100% everything that anybody does.
Yes.
However, I'm not voting based off of personal feelings. I'm voting based off personal experience. I've experienced Trump as president. I've experienced Joe Biden as president. And I like the way I like Trump as president more.
And there you have it. And these audacious, presumptuous people think that George Clooney, Julia Roberts is going to lure me. George Clooney. And by the way, oh my God, you're going to love this one. What his wife, Amal, by the way, who lives in terror of autocorrect, think about it. Amal Clooney with her her pro ICC and ICJ denunciation of Netanyahu. Ooh. Thank you, Smiling Sue. Member for 4 months. Thank you, Sue. You are the best. We appreciate that immensely. George Keene says, I love our U.S. Constitution, but thanks to narcos, I learned that the Supreme Court of Columbia appoints the Attorney General, so he reports to them. Your thoughts? Well, in this particular case, we have obviously the president appoints the Supreme Court, and I kind of like it as is. I like the executive to do it. That's the way it is. It's very, very simple. But let me just go back to this. And I know there's our dear friend in the woods who's going to enjoy this one. Bibi Netanyahu is going to come to, I don't know when he's planning on coming. Anybody idea? Any idea of when he's going to come? Anyway, the only issue is going to be how many standing ovations is he going to receive? Now, I am telling you right now, and I'm going to say this, and Trump has pretty much made the point. But I am an American citizen, and nobody tells my country what to do regarding their wars or incursions, civil or otherwise. And Bibi Netanyahu, he slapped Obama around, and what he did, it was incredible. It was demeaning, not to our president, but to us. Amal Clooney, George's wife, is absolutely 100% in favor of sanctions and the ICJ and the ICC, up to and including issuing or authorizing the issuance of the arrest warrant against Bibi and other members. His other, I forget who his other staff member was, and members of Hamas. This doesn't play well. This doesn't play well with the Dems, who basically just say whatever you want. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Bibi, whatever you want. Name it. How much do you want? We'll give it to you. Zelensky, whatever you want. That's an issue that I hope President Trump addresses honestly. John McGuire couldn't get higher, says, anecdotal other day at a barbecue, I heard a group of young men, 21 and younger, discussing Nephilim, fake moon landings, and 9/11, just like men would discuss or used to discuss baseball. You know, I am so thrilled by that. and I hope to God that you mentioned Nephilim, mysterious. I'm reading this: a mysterious race of giants or demigods who are unusually large and strong and lived before and after the flood. Nephilim, a group of mysterious beings, large-sized people. You were at a barbecue where young people were talking about that? You really think so? Now, by the way, I am an expert in 9/11. It was my day. July 24th for BB. Yes. Oh, whoa. I know somebody better sedate Spark over there. He's gonna go nuts. Wait a minute, hold on. Population went up due to a medical progress in the late 19th century, causing a fat shortage. So vegetable oils also were pushed as ersatz fat, not good. See, our good friend can't write good. His algorithm, he has to write Doog, like Doogie Howser. This was even before the food pyramid or the FDA. You will find out that the notion of what fats are needed, you don't need them. You don't need them. That's the idea that somehow we need them. John McGuire couldn't get hired says, yes, that's why I had to bring it up. And they don't even have Art Bell. Let me tell you something. One of the things which is the most important is you always have to ask somebody, what exactly do you know about anything? Let me tell you my revelation. I've told this a million times in front of everybody. I did this one time, and I am an absolute. I will say now what I've said then. I have no earthly idea as to what happened on 9/11. None. I know what they say. I know what the official story is. I know what the narrative is, but I don't know what happened. I don't know who, what, when, where, what. Don't have any idea. But one time there was a caller, right? Here we go. No one can super chat Doog. Isn't that something? Isn't that weird? Sparky, you can't believe the stuff I go through, and I don't want to mention it, but you have no idea how I have to reconfigure my thoughts in order to comport with artificial rules of compliance as well. One day, a fellow called up and he said, what about Flight 93? And I said, I'm sorry, this was just when it happened. I didn't know what Flight 93 was. I had no idea. I didn't know the flight numbers. I didn't know anything. Nothing. I kind of knew the official, the narrative. I said, I don't understand what Flight 93. What do you mean? Well, what about this? I said, just a minute. Let me look. And I went and I looked and I Googled. At the time they had images, because remember, this was a nascent period this was 2001. The internet was like nothing. It was like, but they had some pictures and stuff. And I said, I'm looking. Might have been a period after. And I looked, and there was a picture of this notion of Pennsylvania. And there was this event, this picture. It was so horrid, and I'll never forget this. It was Flight 93. Remember what it was? Remember where it was this terrible motion. It was in Somerset County, and I read this. It was just horrible. And as I'm reading this, I'm looking, and they're talking about the planes and the planes and the planes and the planes and the plane and the plane and the plane and this plane and that plane and all these planes. And I'm looking, and I said, excuse me, where exactly is the plane? Where is the plane? And we're talking about Shanksville. And there's all kinds of debate. There was Shanksville. They were talking about a coal strip mine. They called it Stony Creek. There's all these names. Just like the Civil War. And I remember saying, excuse me, I'm looking, because all I saw was pictures of like a divot or a little indentation, some smoke, and people wearing white outfits. I said, where is the plane? And a guy called up and said, what are you getting at? And that was my moment. I said, what are you getting? Well, I'm sorry, what's there? What am I getting at? I had no idea. I was a virgin ears. What are you talking about? I love listening to Art Bell Somewhere in Time replays. I hope that Mr. and Mrs. L Trust Foundation plays them on the internet for the next 100 years. Oh, I listen to Art Bell all the time. Oh, I love at night. I listen to old Art Bells. I listen to things. I just love him. I loved his sound. I love his pipes. George Noory couldn't do it. I was on George Noory a couple of times, and George Noory just lets you talk. And I was exhausted when I got to like 3 hours of just talking, which is okay. But when this person said to me, what are you getting at? I said, what do you mean? What are you suggesting? I said, I'm not suggesting anything. What are you talking about? What do you mean? What am I suggesting? I had no idea what they meant. George Keane says, I meant the best of nation replays, classics all. Indeed, specific to your channel on the Doog issue. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? You can't use the word good here. My friends, when that day happened, it's the same way I reacted. First time I heard Rush Limbaugh talk about these liberals, I said, who are the liberals? I asked the question, I said, who are they? Who are these people? I hate them. Who are they? What do they stand for? What do they want? I had no idea. I had no earthly idea. And the same thing happens. Here I am in New York. I was there. I smelled 9/11 for weeks. I lived it. Mrs. Ellen, I was a Tuesday. I remember I was so, I'm here. So it meant a lot to me. And somebody actually told me, what are you getting at? Because I was questioning, I don't see a plane there. And I thought nothing of it. I'm just looking at the picture and I'm saying, do I have the right picture? Because I don't see a plane. You said there was a plane crash. I'm looking for a crash. I don't see a crash. That's the crash. That's the crash? I remember people were saying, what are you talking about? Well, it goes at such a high speed. The plane, disintegrated, atomized? It's titanium engines. What are you talking about? And people just, and I met this group of people who would fight me. And I'm saying, you're making things up. I'm asking a question and you're making things up in order to prop up and propose a narrative that you are, for some reason, you feel committed to or addicted to maintain. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I've asked questions my whole life. And it's only fun when people say, why are you asking that question? What are you getting at? I told you this time when I was in Catholic school and I saw a picture of these two kids on a rickety house, and I said, don't we each have a guardian angel? Yeah. I said, well, there's only one here. Which kid buys the farm here? They thought it was being funny. I was being dead serious. You told me we each have a guardian angel. Why is there only one here in this painting? Instead of saying, hey, that was good. They go, no, they challenge you. What are you, smart ass? I said, there's only one angel there. I never forget that. Ike identified as a liberal. Those names mean nothing. You do realize that, right, Sparky? Hervé Villachez was also looking for the plane. No, he wasn't looking for it. He was announcing the plane. He and Mr. Rourke, remember that, was Fantasy Island. That was like the Love Boat. Remember Friday nights? Like, I don't know if it was Friday night, but those shows we watched, Love Boat, where every 2-bit actor ended up on the Love Boat. Wild, Wild West. Anyway, I don't want to. You will know that these names mean nothing, right? Conservative, liberal. What do you call somebody who believes that kids should not be subjected to drag shows in kindergarten? Is that a conservative or a liberal? Why would a liberal not say, I don't want my kids saying that? Why? I don't want kids. You ever talk to people about Marxism? Oh God. Oh my God. They have no idea what there's this idea we make up about Marxism. I told you one time, and I'm going to say it again. One night, that was a very important night. We were sitting in this green room of this particular taping one time, and there were two friends of mine who were sitting there. One is kind of like a retired Wall Street guy, very, very, what you would say, considering, conservative type, and that kind of stuff. And the other was an actual socialist. Dare I say, a Marxian, not a communist, because as he would always say, you don't understand, communism is an ideal. You seek communism. You don't get communism. Sparky says, yes, political labels are meaningless. That was my point. Indeed, they are. Well, let me ask you something. Ike, I think, was a liberal because what he did regarding his Brownian's Board of Education actions and the like. See, these words, as you'll find out, mean, but yet in our world, they mean a lot. And we use words like progressives and liberals. I don't even know what these words mean. You got to ask yourself the question. And by the way, if you're brand new here, you have to sit down with young people. I'm so glad our friend mentioned it. I think George McGuire couldn't get hired because mentioned this. We need to have almost like we need to have a school, kind of like I guess you'd call it maybe a summer school. And you have to ask people, what do you think about something? What do you think about something? Are you aware of this? Yes. What are your thoughts on that? And tell me what you think intuitively, not what somebody else says. Don't tell me what you believe because somebody else says this. Tell me what you believe in terms of, I think that kids should not be exposed to such and such because at that particular part of their development, they're unable to make fine-tuning differentiations between, very important whatever. That's it. That's it. Let me ask you something. Yes or no? Or which one? What's worse to overexpose a kid to? Violence on TV, let's say, or games of violence, or sex? Which one is it? Answer my question. I used to answer this one. I did a complete 180 on this one because I didn't know any better. I said it when I was young, but then as I was experienced, I said, no, that doesn't make any sense. Because as John Maynard Keynes said, I didn't change my mind, but the facts change. I changed my opinion. And I don't change my politics. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. George Keane says, I love the cutting room events, but would you and Mrs. L ever consider doing a long weekend with the faithful Lionel Nation members of a Roswell, New Mexico tour? Oh, it's funny you say that. We absolutely. That is, I don't have a bucket list. There's a couple places Mrs. L and I want to go, but that's one of them. Roswell. Absolutely. Just to say it. It's very kitschy. I always wanted to go when Stanton Friedman was there, when he was alive, but I would love that. Because I have the most abstruse opinion on extraterrestrials. I believe what people have said, and I believe that what we call extraterrestrial space travel is consistent with what they saw, though they could just as easily be drones or something. That's it. Period. You understand that? Period. What kind of an opinion is that? Everybody always says, I think that there's got to be people. There's got to be life. Why? Well, there just has to be. Why does there have to be life in the air? Well, because it's a doggone big. And so, what does that mean? What does that mean? If you look out in the ocean, there's got to be a fish in there. Why? I don't know, because it's so damn big. It's so damn big? What if you took a glass, took a scoop of water? Is there any fish in there? Well, there's no fish in here. We need critical thinking. You gotta be able to say, I don't know. And the worst part about it is that when you talk about religion, that's my favorite. I love that. And the people, they always tell you, don't talk about politics or religion. I love it. And religion is even better. even better. Because that's when you really, because nobody's ever sat down and really said, what do I think and why do I think it? They don't do it. They just are raised that way, and they've never said, that's a damn good question. Ask yourself a question. Why do you love your spouse? Why? You'll come up with an answer. Well, I love you because that's not the reason. Why do you love it? Why do you love your husband or your wife? Why? Or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is. Why? You can't answer it. You can't. I mean, you'll come up with an answer, but that's not the answer. That's an answer. That's an attempt at an answer. Why? I don't know. It's a feeling. Describe it. Sparky says, there aren't any successful pure economic or political systems at a large scale. Successful ones are mixed. Pigeonholing countries or peoples as pure ideologies is a mistake. Oh, absolutely. Eric Edie says, America conned again. Thanks, NIH. Well, yes, and Dr. Fauci is going to be taken care of and handled brilliantly and most favorably for what he did. And so is Mayorkas. But let me go back to what you said. You brought up a very good point. Whenever you try to define something, you're immediately ruining it. I give this analogy. Let's assume we're sitting you have no idea what the name of these things are. And you don't know jazz from Tejano to, marching band to nothing. Stride piano to Dixieland. You don't know anything. And you say, I like that. What's that called? I don't know. Just listen to it. Oh, okay. Hey, I like that again. Is that the same as that? You tell me. Oh, okay. Is that jazz? I don't know. I used to get into this with country. Oh my God. The most incredible arguments. Like, stop asking the question. George Keene says, thanks for all the responses. If asked, I'd help organize the Lionel on the Road tour to New Mexico. Are you familiar with New Mexico? Because I want to know all the specifics. I would love to go. I'm serious. Mrs. L and I would love to do that. Absolutely. Just for no other reason than, not because the aliens are there, but that is something. Because if you don't believe Jesse Marcel, then you don't know what he said. Something happened in 1947 there. Something happened. Absolutely. And it wasn't just some weather balloon or swamp gas or the planet Venus. Didn't happen that way. Did not happen that way. We've really done well here today. You know that? This was a very good one today. A lot of good questions. A lot of good perspectives on this. A lot of good things to really think about in terms of president, in terms of sometimes you hit on all cylinders. And sometimes it's like anything else. I was listening to the other day, and I mean this, how do I say this? Without sounding, well, I'll just say it. I heard some very popular quote, live stream, whatever you call it. I was never so bored in my life. It was pontificating. It was saying things. It was, yes, I know about this. You ever heard people talk about Israel? It's the same thing over and over again. I know what it is. Well, this is a genocide. It's an apartheid. It's ethnic cleansing. You know the Nakba, yes, 75 years. 1967. The Green Zone. Yes, I know this. Why are you telling me this again? Why are you repeating this again? I know this. I know that. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how do you fix things. George Keene says, I loved there From 2020 to 2023, New Mexico is like no other place in the U.S. It's truly enchanting. I have a friend of mine who lives in Taos and loves it. And I always wanted to see New Mexico. I've told Mrs. L, the whole George O'Keeffe thing and the whole, it's like a really, I imagine it as pastel. Just I don't know why. Vito says, I think the universe is so vast that humans have to have the ability to say it's beyond the current state of my brain to understand. Maybe we weren't meant to. I'll find out on the other side. Could be. Do you think there's another side? Do you think there's the other side? Let me ask you a question. Vito, why do you have so much interest in going out far? Why not go out where it's tiny? I don't want to get in a spaceship and fly 3 light years. No. I want to get small, like Steve Martin says. I want to go subatomic. That's what I want to do. It's just, things aren't far away. Things aren't small. They're just far away because on that particular level, for example, if you're at if I could take the electron, if I could take the nucleus of an atom and have it be equivalent to a basketball or something, the first electron would be like, 10 miles away or something in terms of this gaping size differential. That blows my mind. Sparky says, Newsom Kushner 24. I'm going to hold you to that, my friend. I despise Jared Kushner. I see Jared Kushner and he creeps me out. I think he's like one of these David Icke. He's reptilian. He's not normal. I don't understand what that is. And his wife is so phony. It's not even Ivanka. You put the whole group together and they're not interested in the least. But you know what? That's not my problem. But you mentioned something before. There doesn't have to be anybody out there. And I don't know what anybody means. And here's the thing which is the most important. And every time I tell somebody this, they miss the point completely. Vatican astronomers said that the real issue is that if we do find people out there in the middle of nowhere, out in space, do they have original sin? Do they understand what Christ is to them? Let's see, Christ came here to earth. Why would they have to believe in Christ? They don't know what Christ is. Could they have been born without original sin? Without the need for redemption and absolution and born again and and if you think about this, if Christ only came to one planet in one out of trillions of galaxies, trillions of stars, trillions of planets, trillions, and he came just here to Earth, that's it? People would say, I don't even want to think about that. Doesn't that sound like, what? How important is Earth to you? What about these other planets? I've got a couple 100,000 in this galaxy. I'd rather not think that. That's the difference with you and me. I want to think that. I want to ask, you sent Jesus just to here? Why? Are we worth it? Other planets aren't going to, well, they didn't need it. I don't know. Here I am trying to speak for God. I can't. But I love to ask that question. I love to ask that question. I love this one. God, why do you let this happen? Why did you let the Holocaust happen? Why do you let this happen? Why do you let war happen? Why do you let babies die? Why do you do this? Why don't you stop it? That's my favorite. Sparky says, B.B. Kushner's longtime family friend. In fact, isn't it true that when B.B. came here, he slept in his bed or something? By the way, B.B. is so through, it's not even funny. And yet there's people who keep saying that whenever somebody protests, some of it is certainly anti-Israel. I'm sure some of it there must be anti-Semitic, but most of the time, a lot of it is pro-Palestinian. And they don't even know how to call it. They don't know what to. You know this, Sparko. During Vietnam War, when you said I'm against the war, you weren't for the killing of American soldiers. You weren't for communism. What? But that's what they tried. America, love it or leave it. Remember that? Oh, dear friends, what a time we've had this evening. God almighty. You have been absolutely without peer. Without peer. And you've been very Doog. Very Doog, as in Doogie Howser. You have been very, very Doog. And I appreciate that immensely. Your Doogishness. Now, a couple of things. Let me remind you. Please, I beg, importune, I ask of you. Ask always. To make sure you sign up for Mrs. L's. Oh, she's got a great one. Wait to hear her story. You got to see her on with Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace is a criminal story powerhouse. And Mrs. L graced the portals of Nancy Grace's show. You can catch her on that. It's mighty, mighty impressive. How about in New York? Is it New York, honey, where the hair people have to? Connecticut? This is Mrs. L's link, by the way. Go there and hook up. In Connecticut, if you are from what I understand, a new person, let me read this. And you're getting a license, you have to be adept and adroit in doing regular tonsorial stuff and braids and hairstyles attributed to African American clientele, even if you don't necessarily not associate or have. To get your license, you've got to do all of these hairstyles, even though you're saying, but I don't have a black clientele. Well, you got to know how to do that. Let me read this. Yes. Let me see. You sent it? Is it my? Okay, hang on a minute. This story, I couldn't believe this. Let me see this. This is. Oh, Lord. I don't have it. You know what? I'll find it tomorrow. Just when you think you've heard everything, it's like, enough. Enough with this. Oh, and one more thing. One more thing. And I'm going to say this again to you. Look. Did you text it to me or did you email it? Okay. Oh, Sparky says, many, if not all, pro-Palestinian protests in the U.S. are led by Jewish folks. Yes, mainstream media doesn't usually point this out. Oh, absolutely. In fact, Sparky, the number of, we'll get into this one day, the number of absolute devout pro-Palestinian, and I will even go so far as to say anti-Zionist, which is unheard of, who are Jewish would blow people's minds because they have nothing to do necessarily with, it's like me being Catholic, but having strong thoughts about the Vatican if that makes any sense. There is no analogy, and let's just leave it at that. What a night, my friends. Oh, my Lord. What a night. Sparky, incredible. Vito, thank you. George Keene, I thank you. Edie Crowley. Hang on a minute. I mentioned John McGuire couldn't get higher. It's true. And Smiling Sue, thank you. I want to make sure we spend Bob S. Thank you. Tony Stark, everyone. Gwig. George Keane. You mentioned George Keane, of course. I can say it again, George Keane. Have you seen George Keane? And Tahuya Bar and Grill. God bless you all. Unbelievable. All right, dear friends. It's been an hour and 24 minutes. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your love. Thank you for all of that great stuff that you provide each and every day. You're the reason God made Oklahoma, and I mean that sincerely. Got a story coming up, which I want you to go back and check. I still think it's the best one. It's about Taral Patel. This is a fellow in Texas who was charged with a third-degree felony for impersonating somebody, or basically impersonating somebody online, when the entire mode of social media, up to and including dating sites, is nothing but impersonation and false personifications and the like. All right, dear friends. Don't forget, follow Mrs. L at Lynn's Warriors. Thank you. See you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you so very much. Have a great and a glorious night. And until tomorrow, remember these words, my friends. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da, da.